I was on a canoeing trip in the Moosehead Lake system of Maine for 3 weeks. Only had one surreal experience, at about 2 weeks in. Couple of important things to note while we were in the woods: the river had fairly well-maintained campsites, with most even having an outhouse. Also, like I mentioned, this happened 2 weeks in, and most of us had adapted to life in the woods. The last thing I want to bring up is the fact that we also had 2 hired guides. That out of the way, here's what happened. We are canoeing down a stretch of river later in the day, probably an hour and a half or so from sunset. Everything is stunning, birds are singing and all that, and we're looking forward to doing one more set of rapids for the day. Going along a little bit further when my stomach drops. Start feeling antsy, like I need to get away, and don't know why. Listen carefully to the river around me. No wind, no birds, no conversation from the other canoes. I'm not even getting bitten by flies or mosquitoes. Everyone is looking uncomfortable and on edge. Guide informs us that he'd like to set up at the next campsite, which should be alongside this stretch of river. Everyone starts to protest this. Some of the other group members ask everyone if they are feeling antsy as well. Everyone agrees that this place isn't right, and we should move on. The guide informs us that he will not let us run rapids at night, and that to portage we will literally be at the campsite, so we should at least look. We all paddle in cautious silence until we reach the site, so, after a bit more paddling we make it to the campsite, still feeling off as ever. The place is a wreck. Not quite like a torn-down sort of way, but more like a decrepit way. Fire pit is no more, all flat ground is covered in thorny bushes taking over, and the wood panels of the outhouse are rotting. This is a site clearly marked on all maps. Guide agrees it's pretty shit, so we decide to portage. FYI, this was not a long portage, maybe 300 feet. To do so we had to remove all our gear and carry it and the canoes around the rapids. I grab a couple of our packs and start walking down a trail that's supposed to lead to the other side of the rapids. Go about 50 feet before I step on a stick that goes through my shoe and into my foot. Great. So, I sit down for a minute. Group continues. I guess like a minute later another kid steps wrong and twists ankle. People keep going. Towards the end of the path of the first passing, another kid falls down a ravine and misses his head on a rock by inches, still hurt though. So everyone makes it to the end, and we realize our guides aren't with us. We assume they hauling stuff, so we head back to the canoes to grab more. The whole walk back we don't see them, and we start to break apart as a group at this point, as some kids stay behind to start packing gear into the canoes. Make it back to the campsite without seeing our guides, and yet they're still not here at the camp. We decide fuck it and start grabbing stuff. So, on this second hauling trip, I carry another pack to the end, but was weighed down and went slower. As I go down the path, I see one of the people carrying a canoe directly away from the river into the forest. The path looks at the river the whole way. Shout to the kid, no response. Set down my pack and tap on his shoulder. Kid acts like he was daydreaming and just woke up. I point out that he's literally carrying a canoe directly away from the river and path, and he says something like damn, guess I got lost lol. Similar walking into the woods behavior seen with a couple other people. We eventually get all our stuff moved though, and all our canoes loaded, and we're ready to leave. Except we still don't know where our guides are. Me and another kid run back to the first campsite along the trail, trying to find them, calling out all the while. Get to the campsite, and they aren't there. Me and friend turn to leave, and we hear our guides call out to us. They're at the campsite. Guide 1, oh there you are. Where did you all go? You're gonna have to hurry to portage all that stuff now. Me and friend look at each other, and back at them. Ask them where the fuck they went. What do you mean, we've been here at the camp? We literally have now made 4 trips to this site and not seen them or heard them once. Absolutely confused, but just wanting to leave the place, We run back down the path with our guides and canoe away. We make it around the next bend as the sun was setting, and we start to hear the forest again. So I know this is pretty tame, but I can't convey how unsettling this place was. It wasn't a feeling of being watched, more so just panic. If any of you are familiar with this sort of thing, I'd really like to know what it was.